The Stanley 78 Philister plane. It's a great plane. I like it. I've used it a lot. The only problem that I have with this, or complaint I should say, is that when you're using it, you have to put pressure on the front, like you do with any other plane, but there's really no place to hold. It's kind of uncomfortable. So what I did was made an upgrade that looks like that. And today I want to show you how I did it. So step one is to find yourself a piece of wood that is approximately the same width as this part of the plane here, where the iron would go if you're going to use it as a bullnose plane, because that's where we're going to attach the knob. So get that, and let's move on to step number two. So the piece of wood that I'm going to use for demonstration purposes is a little thinner than it needs to be. It should actually be the same thickness as this part here where the iron usually lays if you're using it as a bullnose plane. So once you've done that, you want to cut it so that it is the same width as the plane, like so. Then you want to line up your plane on top. You want to grab a pencil, and then you want to trace this outline, this curve on the end of the plane, if you want it to look nice, to match up with the same shape as the plane, that is. And also mark down here where the iron support ends, where that opening is, the mouth right there. Just put a little mark there. Now if you look at the plane closely, you'll see that it kind of sticks out. There's this lip, I don't know if you want to call it here, it doesn't go straight down. There's a little lip here, so you have to accommodate for that. It's about, I don't know, on this plane it's about 2 millimeters or so. So on that mark that you just made on the piece of wood here, just move that up about 2 millimeters or so. And then you want to take a square, something that will allow you to make a 45 angle line, like this guy. Find that mark that you just made. How do I do this here? Let's do it this way. Find that mark that you just made and make a line like that. Because this angle, as luck would have it, is 45 degrees. So that's real easy. So the next step is to use whatever method you would like to make cuts along this straight line and this curved line right there. So once you've done that, you're going to wind up with a piece that looks approximately like this. Then you can take a file and file out this little lip that we talked about earlier to make space for this part of the plane down here. And then what I did was I drilled out the hole that's going to be for the tenon for the knob that you're going to make on the lathe. Now, take into account where the hole for the screw, see if you look at this plane, there's a hole in the middle here for a screw to attach the cap iron to. That's the screw that you're going to use to attach this knob. So this has to line up with a hole on the outside so that you can get a screwdriver in there to tighten it down. So this hole for the tenon of your knob should not interfere with this hole. So this hole right here for the screw is approximately in the middle of this piece. So if you use your finger or whatever, you can use another square, just kind of eyeball it to see where that hole is going to be, and then make sure that you drill the hole for your tenon so that it doesn't interfere with that hole. Because if you do, it's not really a big deal. You just have to go back in and re-drill this hole for the screw again to get through the piece of wood for the tenon that will be blocking it. So anyway, go ahead and drill. Go ahead and drill your hole. I made the hole approximately half an inch or so wide. In diameter, I should say, just so that it has enough support for the knob. So go ahead and do that, and then we'll talk about drilling this hole for the screw. So the next part is kind of tricky, but it's not that difficult. If you look at the casting of the plane, you'll see that this part curves out here. And if you look at it front, it's even more noticeable. So if you put a square piece of wood in here, for example, that, it's only going to go so far. That curved piece is going to push it out. So what we have to do is take file and work on the inside of this piece so that it fits like so inside the plane. And all you can do is just gingerly take off wood until it fits, and it comes all the way down like this. Move that a little closer, so that this piece fits all the way down inside the mouth down here, and it's flush, fairly flush at least, with the blade support or the iron support. Then, once you've done that, now you can start marking out the position of the screw that will be used to hold this piece in. So the way to measure this, or the way that I measure this rather, is to take some calipers and use the depth gauge and kind of eyeball it so that the depth gauge comes right into the middle of that hole. Now this gives you your depth, or the distance from the edge of the piece of the wood rather. Then you just want to get normal ruler and line this up here on the edge of this piece, and then again eyeball it from here to look at where this hole lines up with the ruler and mark that off. Looks like it's about 38 or so. If let's see if that's right there. No, it's about 4. It's actually almost exactly 4 centimeters. Okay, so that gives you your dimensions, or rather the location of the hole on the back of this piece. You want to mark off 4, and then use your depth gauge and go down from that, and boom, put a mark right here. Now this, I should explain, is my first attempt at doing this, and I did all the holes by hand using a bit and brace, so the center hole turned out to be off center because I didn't really measure it as accurately as I just did now, and I kind of eyeballed it, and this hole wound up being in the wrong place, so I couldn't attach it and I had to make a new one. But I'm using this to explain how to do it the correct way. So after you've measured down there, put a cross or whatever where you're going to drill that hole, and then if you're going to use a brace, you want to mark that. That mark should already be there, I should say, because you just marked it. And this is exactly 90 degrees from this flat part. So you want to put a line here if you're going to use a bit and brace, because that will help you to line up the bit as you're drilling, as I did. If you're going to use a if you're going to use a drill press, then what you're going to want is something like this, because the piece is now curved, or a triangle shape, I should say. So you can put that in there, and that'll keep that at a 90-degree angle as you drill your hole. So start off with the small hole, which is the diameter of the screw that will be used to affix the cap iron to this part of the plane. Drill that hole, the same diameter going through this way, and then once it comes out here, then you can use a larger bit and drill halfway down, or whatever. You have to measure the size of the screw that you have, so that you'll have enough room to get the screwdriver in, and also enough clearance for the head of the screw, and yet enough space, or excuse me, enough wood left over inside so that the screw will actually hold this piece to the iron support. And then you move on to the next step, which is turning the knob on the lathe. Now, I consider myself a novice turner, so I'm going to omit the lathe part, because I know a lot of you are probably much better at the lathe than I am. But that's the knob that I created. It kind of looks like that, and the tenon fits the hole that I drilled earlier. So after you've done that, you want to attach the knob with glue to this piece, and then you want to take your screw, that's the screw that holds the cap iron on, and insert that into the hole to make sure that everything fits. Come on, get in there. Like so. Boom. And then you want to take that and attach it to the plane like so. And voila. You have your knob and you're ready to go. And now this really allows you to apply the proper pressure to where you need it when you're trying to make a rabbet. And it's a lot easier. So that's how I upgraded my Stanley 78. Now it works great, feels great, and it's a dream to use. I hope that helped you. I'm sorry if I didn't go into depth as much as I could about certain parts of the creation process for this, but I'm assuming that most people watching this already have a lot of experience making things, and especially have experience with hand tools. So that's it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.